The World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly has grown into a cherished tradition that teaches our communities to truly value the elderly, not through occasional gestures, but as a permanent central part of our lives. The theme chosen by Pope Leo XIV for the 6th World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly, I Will Never Forget You, from Isaiah 49:15, reminds us that God's unwavering love is the ultimate answer to the isolation and neglect so often experienced by the elderly. Now, to help us understand the elderly better, their challenges and fears, as well as to take away pastoral guidelines to better engage with them, I have Dr. Cecilia Chan, gerontologist and dementia advocate and activist, who also writes for the Herald. Uh, and she'll have an article out this weekend. And also Father Andrew Kooi, Parish Priest of the Church of the Holy Redeemer in Klang. And Father Andrew is also one of two ecclesiastical assistants for Archkel's Family Life Ministry. The other one is, of course, Father Peter Anthony. So thank you, Father Andrew and Cecilia, for being here tonight.
Hi,
Thank
hello.
you for having us.
Cecilia, to get us started with your conversations with the elderly generally, and not too specific to those with dementia, what are they most fearful of?
I think one word really stands out. Each time I have a conversation with them, and my research is also on aging. The word is being dependent. As you grow older, as you grow weaker, or your spouse die usually, and you see some changes and all that. The biggest fear is that they are losing their sense of independence. And usually what that entails too is that the changes will be profound. Relocation is very common. It's very common that you're being asked because it's not safe anymore for you to be relocated to be with your family members, like your children, or an institution. And that's huge, because that's a huge change for the place that you are used to, that your house, your kampong, your residential area, your church, your friends, to now to a place that is alien to you. And if that is an institution that is even more a stronger change, and that result in being dependent on another human. That's loss of self-agency. You do not have control over your life anymore. Now your basic needs, what you do every day is reliant on another person. And I think that is the most painful transition or change, and everybody is afraid of. And I think if we are being honest with ourselves, we are also afraid of that. I mean, if we have to be in that position and now you have lost the very important thing that's so important to you, your sense of independence, if that is taken away, not only to the elderly, but to us, I think that's going to be really painful. And I think that is the most deepest fear that we all have.
As an Asian country, or Malaysia itself, we used to keep our families with us wherever we go. Even if we move, relocate to somewhere, we bring them with us and all that. But now the idea of putting them in a home, if I can just loosely say that, is not so foreign to the children of the elderly, right? Do you see
It's a
that?
growing market. Yeah, now growing market, there is a huge need, and you can see the mushrooming of such institutions or care centers, service providers. And we do have the even big companies coming in. There is a conglomerate of such care centers now, and we have to sort of think why is this happening? It wasn't that common those days, and that's because now there's a huge needs, and things are really changing. Our family dynamics are changing, priorities are changing, our culture is also changing. So it's very different from maybe 50 years ago. Today, there is a really huge growth of such homes and institutions for the elderly in Malaysia.
Okay, Father Andrew, I think it's a good time to bring you in to draw a connection with the
Hmm.
Holy Father's theme this year. I will never forget you. In your experience, counseling or engaging with senior parishioners, is there a sense of them fearing, like what Cecilia has been mentioning, all this relocation, or as the Holy Father's concern is being cast aside by society, or even maybe in some cases their own family? Do you come across that?
Those who come for mass regularly or are involved in church activities regularly, I don't see that happening much. But those who are homebound, especially those who are not able to come for one reason or another, sometimes they got nobody to bring them to church. Sometimes because of their health situation that they are not able to make it. Then those are the ones who tend to feel cast out or even left behind, And especially nowadays, if we look at the dynamics of families, we find that many families have very few children. So many of the children are no longer here. I know one couple whose children are all in Australia, so they got nobody around. But because they are involved in the church activities and also in the mass and all, so they don't feel as much as those who have got nobody around and they are not able to join the mass or even the church activities. So the way I see it is that especially those who are in the peripherals. I got parishioners who are quite far away. Some of them are not even my parishioners, actually, strictly speaking, but because they come to for mass once in a while, or we try to reach out to them, then those are the ones who we try to help out as much as possible. Especially twice a year, I go to the homebound for confession and also to give communion and also to have a chat with them, usually during the season of Lent and Advent. And for other times, I've got my community ministers and other supporting people to go and reach out to them.
I think it's good that as they receive the Eucharist in their homes, the communal ministers can also check on them. And sometimes when they engage in church, it's all well and fine. But sometimes if they're alone at home, we don't know, anything can happen, right? It's good to also have some of the church members to drop by, and maybe later we
And
can talk about.
actually, just
Mm,
to just to add to that, I
mm,
think one of the things that happens is that the children will leave them behind with a maid
mm,
or a helper, and then this is where it becomes a bit tricky because when the maid or the helper is on their own together with these elderly people, even though there may be some interaction over there, but when the community minister goes there and talks to them, especially in a language that they can understand, some parishioners speak certain Chinese dialects, So the maid speaks in Bahasa or I don't know what other dialect,
mm.
and the elderly person doesn't even know what they are talking about. So when I got community ministers to go there and talk to them in Hakka or Hokkien or Cantonese or some other language that they can understand, then that's where it helps them to come out of that kind of thing.
Yeah, good point. Language barrier. Yeah, yeah. Cecilia, I recently attended one of your online talks, and you mentioned something about getting to know your true self as we get older, and the elderly are actually happier. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Hmm.
We have more and more research done all over the world that is pointing to this fact. And then I guess if I were to reflect on it myself, compare myself now and to my very younger self, I think it's true. As we grow older, especially as people retire and they do not have to fit into the social roles anymore. They don't have to impress their boss. They don't have to wear clothes to be trendy. They don't have to, compete with the Jonases, or they don't have to deal with the office politics and all that. They don't have to charm and impress people and go to work and kowtow and all that. And suddenly they realize that they can come back to themselves, the essence of themselves. Who are they beyond all the roles and social roles that's going on impressing the society and the people? And a lot of them also realize, because now as we grow older, we realize that time is of essence. Time become very precious. And so with that knowledge, you become very selective of how you would spend your time. You don't go to pubs and nightclubs and, get drunk and all that. You are very selective of how you want to spend your time, the quality time. Who are the people? You're very selective of your friends, you know, that you think that would fit you and that you will grow together. You are also more sort of like grounded, you know, and then you realize that there's a difference between deep wisdom and being clever, right? Because of the years of experiences and the process of self-growth, it leads you to realize that you have such depth in your knowledge, you know, and it's just not AI and going to the chat GPT and gathering knowledge. This is something that's very profound that no one can take away from you. And I think because of that, a lot of participants share that indeed, you know, as they grow older, even though physically they're not as active, they may have more diseases, they may have wrinkles, you know, and their hair may be thinning. Yeah, and all that is true. But on the whole, people are actually more the happier as they grow older because of this wisdom and the less stress and all that. So it's very interesting. But then if I check on myself, I think that's also true, Kevin.
Yeah, as we get older, our priorities start to be aligned with what's important. And I'm sure, Father, you'll see more people, the spiritual dimension of their life. They'll come back more to church or to learn more about the faith. Do you see that?
I see that especially when those who have really retired, you know, they got more time. So they actually make an effort to come for Mass as much as possible and also in the various church activities. And of course, those who are not able to do so already, as I mentioned, I've got my commune ministers to go and try to reach out to them as much as possible. Of course, it also depends on whether they are available, you know, because as they age, you know, they need to go to hospital or for extended stay in hospital and all that. And one of the challenges that we face is that, especially in certain hospitals, it's very hard for the community to enter. There's so much red tape involved, you know. You know, you must get a pass, and then only a certain number of people can go in. So, where possible, if they are at home, then we are able to try and have a chat with them as much as possible. Otherwise, those who are able to come to the parish, we encourage them to be involved. You know, they don't have to do great things. They can even do small things like getting involved with the Legion of Mary, or even small things like, you know, we've got a nice grotto here. You know, so every once in a while, I try and encourage them to do some cleaning up a bit. No need to scrub like gila, lah, you know, but just clean up a bit so that at least the grotto looks a bit more presentable. Even the church also as well, we have got a cleaner, but some of the elderly may want to help to do some cleaning from time to time. You know, I don't stop them if they want to do so, but they are not forced to do so. It's up to them to do so if they want, and you know, if they're willing to help, fine and good. That's good. And even in the catechism classes, we've got a few of these elderly who are teaching the younger generation, you know, so they feel a sense of accomplishment in that, a sense of belonging in that. So it very much depends on their situation. Those who are not able to come, we try to reach out to them where they are. Those who are able to come benefit a lot in the parish setting.
I guess, Cecilia, you'll agree if I say that they want to feel useful at their age, still being able to contribute, right?
The sense of being included, you know, in the community.
Okay, now loneliness among the elderly is becoming a growing concern. Why is this happening even in a family-oriented society like Malaysia, Cecilia?
Yeah, loneliness is now a pandemic, you know, Kevin. It's strange, isn't it? The more digitally connected we are, the more lonelier we are. And it's all across the world. This has now become a problem. And when we just look around us, right? I mean, we just look at the restaurants or cafe, we walk into people having their meals, you know, grandparents, children, 3 generations together. Everybody is engrossed with their own world. Everybody has got a phone and staring at their phone. instead of connecting. Those days, I remember when I was young, me and my grandma and my aunties, we were like telling stories, and we were engaged, we were communicating, disturbing each other, fighting and all that. But now there was just silence. Everybody order the food, and then everybody stare at their phone. They are so busy connecting with people they don't know in the social media. But the people that's closest to them, they are totally disregarded. And I think that is the sense of even at home, we are so segregated now, and segregated by age, segregated by how we prefer and our lifestyle and all that. And look around us. I was at KLCC last week for a conference, and I was just walking in the mall. I was in 2 malls, and I realized that the whole setup, the whole system is meant for the young. Older people are not welcome there. Look around you, look at the park, the Surya KLCC, look at the malls, look at the bank, look at all our environment, the whole setup, even hospitals, right? It is not even elder friendly, so we are sort of directly, I'm not saying indirectly, directly excluding them from the community. They are not welcome them there, because if they are maybe, having some walking problems, or they're on wheelchair, there is no amenities that support them. And the digital world, even though you're with them, everybody is so withdrawn. So I think this is, I would call it a pandemic, that is unfortunately happening in Malaysia. And I would think that is a real concern for all of us. And this is a huge thing that because we are so engrossed with our own world, we forget about their assistance. Sometimes we conveniently sort of like just get a maid, or put them in an institution and just take care of their physical needs. Forgetting that we are all social beings. We are created as social beings. We need each other. And that is why we sort of suffered during the pandemic when we are locked down, because we are cut away from human connections. Human connections are basic needs for any human being. And unfortunately, that is what we are going through now. And I think it hits the seniors more seriously.
I guess this is where the church comes in, right, Father? How does the church or the Christian community, help the elderly cope with loneliness, or maybe some of them depression as well?
At the archdiocese level, we've got what we call the grandparents and elderly ministry, and they have been organizing talks as well as formation, and also there's an upcoming gathering for all elderly and grandparents on the 31st of August, where they are all encouraged to come and join us for a celebration. There's going to be lots of things happening over there. It's going to be held quite likely in St. Ignatius Church. So we are hoping to encourage as many of the elderly to come as possible. Plenty of food also as well. So that's
I'll be there.
one of the things, as well as mass, and also there's talks involved. And then at my parish level, I've got a very well-established senior parishioners ministry. They conduct games and as well as activities almost on a monthly basis. And even they have already planned for pilgrimages to other churches, to other places, and encourage the elderly to join these activities, so that they don't feel as lonely. But for those who are homebound, that's where it becomes a bit more challenging, because my community ministers and myself also, we are not able to reach out to them as much as possible. But at any time, if they need someone to talk to, we see how we can go and reach out to them.
Cecilia, talking about support as we begin to wrap up, what can we do to appreciate our seniors? I would like to share about your community that supports those with dementia, like the Forgotten Mutiara Cafe. Can you share with us about that?
Oh yes, that is one of my most passionate project. So dementia is the most stigmatized condition. And because of that, it is not just a medical condition, it is a social condition. People isolate them, we exclude them. and they are not part of the community or the society anymore. And so in order for us to challenge that, like what our late Pope says, to build bridges and not walls, we had to start at the community, at the society. So we decided to sort of transform a daycare center into a cafe. So it was a pop-up cafe. We do that regularly, and our residents that's living with dementia, not resident, our clients, they are the chefs, they are the barista, and to decide on what menu that they want. We went shopping together, so they're really part of the whole project. And then we prepare meals together, and some of them are very good PR, so they serve, So our people come, our guests comes, and we serve them. We take order with just like a cafe, and then after that we sort of connect with each other. We sing, we dance, we have music, we play, and I think that is very transformative rather than me going around, talking, because when people see that, they experience it and they get touched. And with that, they are transformed because of the social construction that we feel that people with dementia are a certain thing and we label them. We are afraid of them. And because of that label, people are being isolated. But when we have projects like this that involves people living with dementia and the community, where they come together and connect as human beings, dementia is suddenly not in the picture anymore. It's just human beings. And then we just see that we are just human beings connected with each other, and sharing moments, precious moments with each other. And with that, people are transformed without me having to say much, because it's at the grassroots. So forgotten mutiara means pearl, obviously. And we use the pearl to symbolize dementia, because we always see, when you see pearl, we look at a very unattractive shell. It's very ugly, yucky. But underneath that ugly shell is a beautiful pearl. It's that person, So we have forgotten the pearl, the mutiara. And so we are bringing back the pearl into the community. And I say that it has been successful. And this project is being recently replicated in KL. And I hope that this message will go across, and I hope that it will be replicated around Malaysia, so that we would be able to transform to have a more inclusive community.
Father, if you don't mind sharing your experience caring for your mom, I believe I heard she also has dementia.
I think it would be more of the early stage, because she's still able to come to church and she's still able to recognize people. Of course, there are times where she'll ask the same question 1,001 times. And, my dad will be driven up the wall across the creek and whatever. And sometimes, because he's the primary caregiver, so whenever they come for mass or when they come for activities, I'm fortunate that I've got quite a good community here who helps to keep an eye on her, because sometimes she will walk somewhere, and then they will try and guide her back to her seat, Otherwise, you don't know where she goes, So uh, it's kind of scary at times, but fortunately, because of the community I have over here, we got quite a number of good people who are willing to look out for her, and I'm glad in that sense that I don't have to worry as much compared to if I'm very far away, then it may be a challenge.
I think Father Andrew just shared a very uh, important example that will work. We have a community that supports, society that supports people that's going through cognitive changes like dementia. It makes a lot of difference, because networking is very important, and that's the safety net. Not locking people in their room or locking people in their house, but allowing them and then supporting them as and when they need. Each one of us play a very important role. Everybody plays a very important role. If you're sitting in a church in a pew next to somebody who gets confused. There was some, I think but the previous story that I wrote at the Herald was this their daughter who brought their mom during Easter, and then there's the priest going around and sprinkling the holy water, and she got so excited. And she's like, it's raining in the church. And everybody was fawning at her and like, but if we understand dementia, she's having that time. She's in the moment, that she's enjoying the water, the rain, whatever it is. And that was her moment. If we become less judgmental and we support her, it changes everything. But unfortunately, this family member was so embarrassed because everybody was giving her that scornful look and she had to leave. And somebody had to call her and say, I think you better don't bring your mom to church anymore. We will send the communion minister to deliver Holy Communion. That makes a lot of difference, to have a community that rejoices and support her as she goes through the Mass and she's experiencing in her own way, her connection with the Lord in her own way, different from us. I think that would be able, if we are able to sort of understand it better and provide the support. Just imagine she will continue coming to church and she will be enjoying that communion with God and with each other. It will make a lot of difference.
Father, any last words or any message for this special day?
The coming up family elderly day on the 31st, we would like to extend a warm welcome to whoever is able to join us. Plenty of people might be coming, so they might meet up with some old kakis as well. So I hope to see more and more of our elderly joining us in that. Even though you are dementia, so no problem, because we have got people over there who can help in that sense as well. Of course, it will be a half-day affair, and it will include mass also as well. So, in case you are not able to make it for the mass, it's Merdeka, So in a way, it's like Merdeka for them also. So we hope that they can join us on that day.
Right. Cecilia, anything to say to add?
Yeah. I always like to quote our late Pope Francis, let us build bridges, not walls.
So thank you, Dr. Cecilia Chan and Father Andrew Kooi for this session. Let us remember that this celebration, World Day for Grandparents and the Elderly, is meant to help us appreciate the older generations as vital keepers of our history, witnesses to our faith, and the teachers of our lives. So thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
Right, thank you.
Okay.